Hi everyone, and welcome to the channel. My name is Infantry Pulse, and today we're going to be going over the top 5 infantry beast units. Now this is actually the last of our top 5 infantry videos. It's been a long journey to get here, but we've done all the tomes, we've done all the standard weapon triangle, we've done all the ranged weapons, we did dragons yesterday, so we're finishing off with infantry beasts. Now this is an extremely small weapon and movement type, right? So there are only 8 units total, so we are not actually going to do honorable mentions today. We're just going to cover the top 5 of these units. Now just because there are only a couple of these units in this class type, it doesn't mean that these units are bad by any means, because they're limited, right? The units that are appearing in this top 5 are very, very strong and very, very impactful. So without further ado, let's get into our pick for number 5.
My tail is not wagging! It's not!
So here we have Keaton. So Keaton is a very, very good dual phrase brave weapon user. Now the thing that makes Keaton especially good is that the Beast Infantry class has the special effect that when they are transformed, they get the +2 attack like all beasts, but then also they get a Wodow effect, meaning that when they're special triggers, they deal an additional 10 damage. So when Keaton fires off that Moonbow, it's going to be obviously proccing the Moonbow effect, where it's reducing the opponent's defense essentially, but then also he's getting a flat 10 damage on top of that. So when you combine that with his Brave Weapon effect, he makes a very, very good Vantage user. So Keaton firing off a Moonbow with the Wodow effect, with Vantage and Heavy Blade in the seal, means that he's going to be firing that off every combat he meets an attack check, which is pretty frequently if you're doing everything correctly. And he just becomes a very, very strong Vantage sweeper. Truly, there are very few units that can survive something like a Moonbow effect. Obviously, he's very weak to Hardy Bearing. He's very weak to the staff users, especially because of his low res, but anything that can prevent counterattacks. So he is limited in his usage, and that's why he's appearing at number 5 and not higher on the list. But when he encounters a team that is unprepared to deal with a Vantage strategy, he is one of the best Vantage units in the game for sure. Definitely a very, very strong unit and not something to be underestimated.
We mustn't idle. Bring my groom with haste.
Next up we have Bridal Nyla, and I feel like this is an often overlooked unit that's actually very, very powerful. So Bridal Nyla's weapon effect debuffs her opponent's stats by 5, so attack, speed, defense -5, as long as they're above 75% HP, and then after combat, she gets a mini special spiral, meaning that she gets a special cooldown -1 after combat. That means that once her soul has popped off and the opponent is initiating at 75% HP, she can continuously fire off souls on her first counterattack, right? So she has the slaying effect on her weapon, so it's a 2 cooldown special. After combat, it becomes 1 cooldown with that mini special spiral. Then when the opponent attacks her, it charges up that soul, and then she fires back with a soul on the first hit. And you always want your healing specials to go off on your first hit, so you get the maximum value out of the damage you're doing, right? Because if it goes off on the second hit, 50% of, 13 damage is not very much healing, but 50% of 40 damage is a lot of healing. So I've chosen to attack stack her because she does need a little bit of help to make sure that she gets those kills off, but as long as she's transformed, she has that Wodow effect on her weapon, right? So she's getting +10 damage when her soul goes off, and again, since it's hitting on that first one, that means she's getting a lot of healing on every single hit. So as long as she's not getting one shot with something like Null Follow-Up in her B slot, she's going to do very, very well in terms of being a sustained tank. Definitely an overlooked and underrated unit for sure.
Have you seen my bride? She must look very beautiful.
Next up we have Groom Raphael. So from the same banner as Bridal Nyla here, we have a unit that enables Gale Force really well. So he gives his support partner -1 special cooldown at the beginning of the match. And that's really good to start pre-charging a Gale Force team on Aether Raid's offense especially. Gale Force Dancers are also super powerful because they can attack a unit, charge their Gale Force, and then they can either attack again or they can dance another unit. So when you build Gale Force teams, it's great to have lots of Gale Force hard hitters and all that stuff, but a Gale Force dancer is really, really good because it gives you a little bit more wiggle room and a little bit more options to play around the opponent's strategy. So you see him here with Flashing Blade 4, could be Flashing Blade 3, it doesn't really super matter. But he's definitely looking to charge up that Gale Force as fast as possible. You are going to want to go with Flashing Blade because Raphael's attack is quite low. Really low, actually. So you want to go with the Flashing Blade to make sure that's charged up. And that's why, again, because his attack is really low, that's why I took Flashing Blade 4 here to make sure that he gets a little bit of that true damage off. Even then, he's going to maybe have some trouble meeting a Flashing Blade check, but his effect to inflict a cooldown charge on his ally, on his support partner, is very, very useful and definitely a good unit to pick up even as a one-off.
Oh, woken up early and I gotta wear these fancy things? Bleh.
Next we have New Years Voluria, and New Years Voluria is a lot like the infamous Brave Lucina. So New Years Voluria actually empowers her ally to get special cooldown +1 charge during combat. Now what's special about that is that Voluria can actually support things like dragons and mages, the magical side of the damage spectrum, whereas Brave Lucina can only support a physical damage dealer. So she works well with all those kind of mage things. Something that also should be noted is that Valoria's weapon works both ways, unlike Brave Lucina's weapon, right? So she can actually be a carry herself, and when she's near her support partner, she can inflict attack and speed -6 on the opponent. So she is a good secondary carry herself. I run a New Year's Voluria with my Sophia during light season, and those two units really balance out each other well. So it is a double tank strategy, not just a support strategy like something you might see with Brave Lucina. She's a very, very strong unit, and she is a good option as a double tank, even if you're supporting a unit, the physical unit. So Brave Lucina is good because she provides excellent, superior in a lot of ways support to what Brave Voluria does to physical units, but New Year's Voluria then is a better tank herself, a more competent unit for sure. Not that Brave Lucina is an incompetent unit, but definitely New Year's Voluria is a very strong support unit that is super combat ready herself.
There's nothing quite like the downy bliss of a dust bunny's touch.
And finally, at number 1, we just got done talking about a Voluria, and number 1 is also Voluria. So Voluria is the top 2 beasts. Yeah, so Voluria here is, again, a great, just like Groom Raphael, a great enabler of a Gale Force strategy on Aether Raid's offense. So she actually provides cooldown -2 to her support partner and herself. So she is very good to pre-charge Gale Force strategies. So being an infantry unit also, she can run Infantry Pulse. And then I have chosen again to run Flashing Blade 4 in her A slot. That's also super optional. You can do whatever you need to make her work. But definitely a very, very good unit to pop off with Gale Force strats. She's got good offensive stats, honestly. And overall, just like a very strong unit, and definitely one of those units that is a staple if you want to run a Gale Force offense. Can you run Gale Force without Voluria? Absolutely, of course you can. It's not a problem at all. But Gale Forcing is going to be so much easier and so much more consistent if you can run something like this Voluria. Definitely a super, super strong unit and worth a pickup. Again, even at a one-off, worth the pickup. Definitely a super great unit and one that is worthy of being invested into. And that is the video, everyone. So definitely shorter today without the honorable mentions and all that. And that actually brings our top 5 infantry analysis to a close. That's the last video in this series. So we will be doing a special kind of bringing all these videos together this weekend. So make sure to tune in for that. Definitely excited. That'll be featuring special guests. So get excited for all that stuff. Make sure to tune back into the channel if you want to see that. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed the content. Give the channel a subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye.